Hi, I'm Abalore. A warm welcome to you all. In today's lesson, we are going to learn 5 types of goods in economics. And these goods are quite basic and they will help you in 2 different ways. First, they will help you to understand the goods you need to buy more when income increases and the goods you need to buy less when income increases. Second, understanding this type of goods will help you in your academics. And when you learn and understand these goods, you'll be able to use them correctly. Now, before I come to explain the types of goods that we have, let me quickly run through this vocabulary, which will help further your understanding with respect to the topic at hand. Now, relationship. The way two or more variables are connected. Now, in economics, there are countless number of variables, but for the purpose of this study, I will limit it to 2. 1. Income and quantity demanded, and 2. Price and quantity was demanded. Also, relationship could be of 3 types. 1. Positive, 2. Negative, and 3. Constants. Relationship is positive when increase in one variable leads towards increase in the other variable, or decrease in one variable will lead towards decrease in other variable. Now, a good example of positive relationship between variables could be income and quantity demanded. That means when income increases, the demand for some goods will increase. And when income decreases, generally, the demand for goods will decrease. Second, negative relationship. A relationship is negative when increase in one variable will lead towards decrease in the other variable, or decrease in one variable will lead towards increase in other variable. And a good example of that is the relationship between price and quantity demanded. Everyone knows that the lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded, and the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. And another word for negative relationship is inverse. And another word for positive relationship is direct relationship. And lastly, we have constants. A relationship is constant when increase or decrease in variable A will lead to no change whatsoever in variable B. That means variable B will remain unaffected, will remain unchanged. That means it will not change whatsoever. Income. The amount received for services was rendered. For instance, as a laborer who renders labor services to a company, at the end of the month, your income will be salary or wages. Also, as a landlord or as a landlady who owns a property and hire it out to business owners, tenants, and at the end of the month or at the end of the year, the landlord or landlady gets to receive rent, which is an income to the landlord. But in short, the income of an individual is measured by the quantity of factors of production or resources that he or she possesses. That means the more resources you have, the more the factors of production you have, such as land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial services that you could offer. That will determine whether your income will increase or decrease. So, in short, your resources, the quantity of resources that you have as an individual will determine your level of income, whether it will be high or it will be low. And we have demand. The quantity of a commodity bought. Demand simply means to buy. That means when your purchase of a commodity is backed up with financial ability, that means you have the money to buy the goods or services, then your purchase is said to be demand. So demand simply means to buy. That means you have the financial capability to buy that goods, then it is said to be demand. And lastly, we have change. Variables change. And that change could be rise or fall. So income as an example of variable could rise or fall. So another word for rise is increase, while another word for fall is decrease. Now, having talked about the vocabulary, let me quickly talk about the types of goods that we have in what economics. Now, before I explain the types of goods, let me quickly run through what income elasticity of demand is about, because the first goods that I will be talking about here is affected by income. And when we say income elasticity of demand, we are trying to say the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by what percentage change in what in income. That means when there is a change in the level of income, what will be the effect of that change in income on the demand for goods or services? So, income elasticity of demand basically has three types. We have positive, we have negative, and we have constant. So, normal goods always have positive income elasticity of demand. Inferior goods always have negative income elasticity of demand. And necessity goods always have constant income elasticity of what? Demand. That's zero. Now, what are normal goods? Normal goods are goods that more is demanded as money income what increases. That means as your income increases, you tend to buy more of what? Normal what? Goods. And you can see here, we have classifications of normal goods, three basically. And the idea behind the classifications of normal goods is when income changes, how will these normal goods react to change in the level of what? Income. How will they respond to what? To change in the level of what? Income. So necessity. Necessity are also called the basics or daily breads. And you can also call them autonomous consumption. And autonomous consumption are those goods that their demand does not depend on the level of income. That means irrespective of the change in the level of income, whether it increases or decreases, the demand for necessity goods will remain constant. That means they will never change. So that's why you have the income elastic coefficient to be equal to what? Zero. Let me break it down further. In a period of recession is a period of continuous decline in the production of goods and services in a country for a period of 6 months. That's 2 quarters. In that period of recession, there is usually loss of jobs, and as a result, loss of what? Incomes. In a period of recession, income is usually zero, but for the low income earners, it's usually what? Negative. But for the middle income earners, it could be for the middle income earners, it could be zero. But for the low income earners, it could be zero. So even when income is zero, the demand for necessity goods will remain what? Constant. That means during that period, people will go for broke. That means they will do everything possible to make sure that they hit, they have the daily bread just to survive. And during that recession period, begging coefficient is usually on the rise. That means people will beg just to eat, just to drink water, and all that. And the income elastic coefficient is zero. That means their demand does not remain what? Constant, irrespective of the change in the what? Level of income. And the change we actually mean is either income is zero or negative. I'll come back to this second coefficient of necessity goods after. Now, luxury goods. Okay, examples of necessity goods basically like daily breads. We talk of gas, electricity, health-oriented drugs like paracetamol. Daily breads, basically food, water, and all that. Luxury goods. Luxury goods are also called conspicuous what? Consumption. They are those goods that you buy just to boost your ego in the society, to boost your image in the society. And you can only buy more of luxury goods when your income has really increased by a greater what? Proportion. That means when your income has increased by a lot of money, by a great amount. That's luxury goods. And luxury goods, they usually cost a lot of bread, like they cost a lot of money. So if your income has not really increased by a greater proportion, you can have luxury goods. For example, private education. Perhaps you are poor, you want to study at Yale University, you want to study at Harvard, it's luxury goods to you. For example, private, automobiles, like expensive automobiles, like, car that worth $500 million. It's luxury. Expensive trips to, America, to Canada, to Japan, to Dubai. It's luxury goods. Dental care services. You want to go for checkup. It's luxury. So the income elastic coefficient for luxury goods is greater than 1, but less than what? Infinity. And also, clean air and clean water are what? Are luxury goods. Hold your horses, I will explain. Now, clean air and clean water are luxury goods because it is only when people's income have increased that's when they will be more than willing to pay to have what? Clean what? Air. Now, also, climate change, global warming is, is a global phenomenon, is a problem throughout the world. And that means climate change is mostly affected by low-income what? Economies. That means Togo, Cameroon, Niger, and other low-income economies. It affects them a lot. That's climate change of any kind, like water pollution, noise pollution, air pollution. Why? Because these countries have what? Low incomes. They don't have huge incomes that they can devote to tackle what? Climate what? Change of its kind. However, the negative effect of climate change on advanced economies, developed economies, wealthiest economies, that is the richest economies, is less. Why? Because these countries have huge resources. They have huge income. Their per capita income is very high. And that means they have, more than enough resources that they can devote to tackle what? Climate what? Change. So as a result, they will have what? Clean air. They will have clean water. They will have, less, noise pollution and all that. So luxury goods. Clean air is a luxury good. Clean water is a luxury good. If your income has not really increased by a greater proportion, like, has increased a lot, you can enjoy, luxury goods. So take, for example, whiskey buying a t-shirt worth $250,000. A lot of money. It's a lot of money. So it's a luxury goods. Me, I'm poor. Whiskey is, rich. I can't buy that. So the income elastic coefficient is greater than 1, but less than what? Infinity. And we have comfort goods. Comfort goods, the example that I could give you is furniture. Furniture of its kind, like kitchen cabinets, your bed, your couch, your chair, your wardrobe, and all that. And that means a 5% change in the level of income will lead to what? 5% change in the demand for what? For comfort what? Goods. So, okay, I think that's okay. I hope I'm not too fast in explaining all this type of goods. Perhaps let me know in the comments. Inferior goods. Inferior goods are goods that less is bought as money income what? Increases. So as your income increases, you tend to buy less of what? Inferior what? Goods. And a good example is rice, potatoes, smoking, slum, and all that. And it is claimed that larger quantity of inferior goods are bought by people who have very low level of what? Income. That means low income earners will buy more of white rice, potatoes. They will smoke more because they are poor. If you in the ghetto, you see them, bunch of them, a whole bunch of them, they're smoking. Why? Because they're poor. Slum, the destitute part of the city, the dirtiest part, part of the city is slum. They live there, because they're poor. So people who are poor will buy large quantity of what? Inferior what? Goods. But as their income increases, they tend to buy less of what? Inferior what? Goods. And buy more of what? Normal what? Goods, like fresh fish, high quality meats, fruits, and so on and so forth. So smoking is an example. If someone smokes like a chimney because they are poor, that means he or she smokes a lot. You know, he or she can smoke a basket full of, marijuana. And he or she, his income, increases, then that means that person will smoke what? Less. Also, someone that is poor that lives in the destitute, in a dirtiest part of the city. As a result, when his income, increases, he what? He will move to a more serene environment, a more, conducive environment, a more habitable what? Environment, because his income has what? Increased. So all these are examples of inferior goods. So the poor buy more of inferior goods, while the rich could buy less of what? Inferior goods. But the rich buy more of what? Normal what? Goods. Okay? Yeah. Giving goods. Our goods that more is purchased as price what? Increases. E.g. bread. So as price of the goods increases, you tend to buy what? More of it. I know some of you are like, hold your horses, I will explain. Now, giving goods is an abnormal demand situation. Everyone knows that the normal demand slope is negative. Negative means it slopes negatively, means the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded, or the lower the price, the higher the quantity was demanded. So giving goods is an abnormal demand situation whereby when price is high, quantity demanded is what? Is high. So that makes demand curve to slope positively. And a good example of giving goods is bread. Now, let me break it down. Bread is considered a staple food. That means an important part of every family. Every family loves, bread. Some family can't even do without bread. So how does it work? This is how it works. Bread, the price of bread is high, and the consumer still buys, more of it. This is how it works. The consumer will have to cut down the amount and reduce the amount spent on more expensive food items like fish, meat, and all that. And the cut down in all these expensive food items will be plugged back to buying what? More of bread at a very expensive what? Price. That's how it works. So staple food generally, they are giving goods. Staple food that people can't do without, they are staple food. Because for them to buy more of it when the price goes up, they will have to reduce or cut down the amount spent on more expensive food items. And the name giving goods was given after Robert Given. He's a scholar, he's an economist. Okay? Yeah. Number 4, we have economic goods. Economic goods are goods that have prices and have to be paid what? For. E.g. pen, shoe, and so on and so forth. Now, in this 21st century, hardly do we have goods that doesn't have price on them. Almost all goods have what? Prices. And that means almost all goods are economic goods in this 21st century. Now, I will try as much as I can to limit the explanation of economic goods to the way an economy student will view it, an economy student will see it, and understand it. Now, economic goods, basically, they have 3 characteristics. 1, they have price. 2, they control price. And 3, they have high marginal utility. And if a good has high marginal utility, it means that good is relatively scarce. And how do they control price? Very simple. Economic goods, their demand is always more than their supply. And when demand of a good exceeds supply, it means that's a shortage. That will bring about scarcity of that goods. And when a good is scarce, it will drives the price up. That means the price will skyrocket. That means the price will rise. And Nigerians will understand what I'm saying. Petrol is a kind of economic goods to them, because during when there is scarcity of petrol, the price usually goes up, and that means there is shortage at that particular period. That means demand exceeds supply. And a good example of economic goods that I could give is we have gold, we have diamond, we have silver, and other precious metals that you could think of. Precious metals. So, lastly, we have free goods. I hope I'm not too fast. Just let me know in the comments, right? Free goods are goods that do not have to be paid for and do not have what? Private property what? Rights. Private property right to start off with means the right of ownership of something. That means you truly own that thing. And for you to have claimed right of ownership to something, it's perhaps you've obtained license from the government. That means the government has given you license to own that thing. That's private property rights, the right of ownership, the right to claim ownership, and perhaps by obtaining license from the government. So our goods that do not have price, they don't have price. Those that usually consume free goods are called free riders. They are free riders. They want almost everything for free. They want house for free. They want food for free. They want water for free. They want transportation. Everything for free. They are free riders. And a good example that I could give you with respect to free goods, let's consider a fish in the ocean. A fish in the ocean, no one owns it. And that means no one has private property rights on what? On them. So no one has the incentive to raise the fish. No one has the incentive to protect them. And no one has the incentive to ensure that future generation of the fish will exist. So anybody can just go to the ocean, to the lake, and catch those, fish and, and fry them and eat. So a good example of free goods is a fish in the ocean, lake, and all that. Also, hair. Hair is an example of free good. Polluted hair. Don't forget, I said luxury. Clean hair is a luxury goods. But polluted hair, like Nigerians that live in, Ajegule side, Mushin side, the hair there is, polluted, kind of polluted. But if you go to Victoria Island and all that, those places, the hair is less polluted. Tap water, a lot of people will say, oh, they can't buy table water or bottled water because it costs a lot of money. Excuse me for a second. Look at this. This is the table water. Bottled water is aquadan. So to some people, it costs a lot of money. It's luxury to them. So they would say they would rather drink from the tap water because tap water could be free goods. Forest. Cutting down, in the forest for you to resell, could be a free good. But there are some forests that belongs to, some people. So don't trespass, right? Don't trespass. So cutting down, trees in the forest for resale could be also a free good. So clean hair is not a free good. It's an economic good. It's a luxury goods. Now, I haven't explained all these type of goods. Let me quickly explain how we got this income elastic coefficient for these normal goods. Now, this is the formula we're going to be using. Income elasticity of demand equals percentage change in demand over what? Percentage change in what? In income. That's a tale for another lesson. I'll be explaining dependent variable, independent variable. Income is independent variable. Demand is what? Dependent what? Variable. That means independent variable determines dependent what? Variable. That means change in income determines what? Change in what? In demand. So with respect to necessity goods, let's assume that 5% change in income, 5% change in income will lead to no change in the demand for what? Necessity what? Goods. I explain it that the demand for necessity goods remain what? Unchanged, irrespective of change in the level of what? Demand. So 0%, and 0 divided by 5, you have what? 0. So with respect to income elasticity of demand, any good that has what? 0 as coefficient is what? Is necessity what? Goods. And the second elastic coefficient This one is greater than 0 but less than what? 1. What that means is, let's assume a 5% change in income. A 5% change in income brings about a little change in the demand for what? For necessity goods. I mean, let's say a little change like 2%. So 2 divided by 5, you are going to be having 0.4. So there are times that when income changes, for necessity goods, the demand for them will change by a little, and that's 2%. That means you tend to buy more of gas, you tend to consume more kilowatts of electricity or more, kg of gas. You tend to consume, more of, food and all that. That's with respect to this. So it's greater than 0 but less than what? 1. So necessity goods, for income elasticity of demand, any coefficient that is 0 or less than what? 1 but greater than 0, it's still necessity, it's still for necessity goods. I hope that is clear. Good. For luxury goods, let's assume a 5% change in income. 5% change in income brings about 10% change in the demand for luxury goods. I said an increase in income will lead to a more proportional increase in demand for what? Luxury goods. So 10 divided by 5, you're going to be having 2. So for income elastic coefficient, or for income elasticity of demand, any good that has, greater than 1 is what? Is luxury what? Goods. Greater than 1, like 1.5, 2, 3, and all that is what? Is luxury what? Goods. And lastly, for comfort goods, this one, let's say for example, 5% change in income and 5% change in what? In the demand will bring about 5 divided by 5, that's 1. So for income elastic coefficient, any good that is, its coefficient is equal to 1 is what? Is comfort goods. And those furniture, like your kitchen cabinet, you tend to buy them more, or your chair, your bed, and all that. So that's with respect to the types of goods we have in economics. So at this juncture, I would like to round up the lesson with a beautiful quote from a former United States President, Barack Obama. He once said, "We all have a responsibility to ourselves. We all have a responsibility to our society as well as to our world." So this is kind of my responsibility to my society and to our world at large. And also at this point, I want to say a big thanks to everyone for having stuck with me this far. It's kudos to you guys. I really appreciate you guys, and I will appreciate you guys more if you can support what I do by subscribing to my YouTube page. Click the notification bell, the bell, the notification bell, the subscribe button, and my newest video will come straight directly to your smartphones, to your laptops, to your desktops. And do not also forget to like my page, as well as share my videos to friends and relatives whom this video might be of help to. So I say once more, a big thanks to everyone. And thank you also for your anticipated support. I will see you on my next video. Thank you.